Hey everybody, Kevin here from PSVG, the Play Some Video Games Podcast Network. Once again with a special episode. My co-host returning once again this evening is Justin. Don't call it a colander because technically it's a Spider-Man Warner.
That was great. Yeah.
Thanks. Very, very punny of me. How are we doing today, buddy?
Living the dream, man. Yeah, I just got back from Comic-Con. I'm in the middle of an epic move. As you can see, I have no decoration behind me. And I actually arranged to disconnect the high-speed internet tomorrow. So this may be the last you ever hear from me.
Ever. And it's nice to talk to you and not via a Fortnite channel for once. It's been a while.
Yeah, I know, for real. It has been a while. But dude, the other day I had a business matter I was trying to take care of with a colleague / friend. And I was like, well, I mean, dude, we can hop on a call or we can just like sort it out during a match. And so like,
yeah, totally.
Yeah. And so like we just use like Fortnite chat, you know, and we're like, oh my God, somebody's at 36. Yeah. And so if you wanted to like work on the like you know, whatever the local jurisdiction says we have to do to establish a business, you know, and it was bonkers.
That's how business should be done nowadays. Let's be honest. Let's just put it out there, everybody. That's how you should be operating.
I mean, it's golf for the modern man.
That is very true. That is well said. I'm gonna go with that from now on. I'm gonna make all my business calls via Fortnite from now on. There you go. You just set a new trend.
Dude, if they can't hang, they can't hang. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
That's true. That's true. So it's been a huge year for you, man. You know, you're doing well. I guess you could say in your competitive cooking season, if you want to call it. We'll put it in sports terms.
Yeah, we got a couple dubs.
Yeah, you got it going. Making tons of judge appearances on Triple G as well. Successful cookbook author. We've talked about that numerous times.
Hey, love it.
And it was recently on sale on Amazon, as you tweeted out, and you weren't sure why. But I do know some people in the community tweeted at me, and they picked up some copies for people who didn't have, so they're digging it.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, and I mean now you're known as the chef of heroes and the heroes of chefs, with a super successful cooking show on Marvel known as Eat the Universe, which, as we're recording today, has hundreds of thousands of hits over on YouTube and has featured Super Bowl champions, musicians, Marvel actors, and the like. So for anybody that doesn't know what Eat the Universe is, give the listeners an elevator pitch.
So I am a cook, but I am also a Marvel fan. You know, I grew up reading comic books daily, weekly, you know, whenever I could get a hold of them. And that was like never discouraged by my fam. So then, of course, later in life, you know, once space to manage massive amounts of comics, you know, my affinity kind of waned. But at the same time, the Marvel Cinematic Universe launched. And so, you know, it was a way to like really keep my fix going. And then I could just, you know, come home and dive into something via their extensive like Marvel's database and learn about characters that I'd maybe forgotten about, see where they are now, see what's going on. You know, I still have a big stack of the like bundles. I don't know what they're called, like trade paperback. I have no idea, but it's not exactly a graphic novel, but it's a collection, you know, hardback like anthology or whatever. Yep. I'll still snag a couple of those here and there to like get a complete plot line. So that's why I'm there. So anyway, as a cook who does those things, basically we invite a guest on. The guest is a fan of Marvel in some capacity. I say, hey, who do you want to talk about? And they'll say whoever their character is. Maybe it's Bishop, but specifically the Bishop from the 1990s cartoon that looks like he's using like a giant rectangle as a gun. Yeah. Dude, he was so good at that gun, you know? Like,
yep.
Everybody wanted to be him. I don't even think he needed the thing, right? He could just absorb powers. He's like the male version of Rogue.
Yep.
But hey, if you're going to be that guy and have like that mullet, you need a big gun. And so, you know, if you are the special guest, you will tell me you like that. And then I'll say, you know what? Today on Eat the Universe, we are going to make a 1990s Bishop inspired dish. And then I will come up with something ridiculous. Somebody wanted to talk about Juggernaut. Actually, that was Dane Drops, another YouTube person, and a pal of mine, Yasel.
Great episode. Great episode.
Thanks, man. So we made a like a 2.5 foot diameter tortilla, and then rolled that up into a gigantic. I mean, this burrito was like this big around. It was like the stuff of like nightmares. You know, it was a mutant burrito. And so then we hang out, we eat it. They talk about what they're into. They talk about how they got involved with the character, what they like or don't like about the character, and then that's it. So basically, it's a Marvel-inspired cooking show, and like we're kind of like 10 out of 10 for good episodes and delicious food, which is weird because I didn't anticipate I basically said to Marvel, look, like, I don't want to make cupcakes that look like superheroes. Like, I want to make food inspired by superheroes that gets people to make like real food that you could serve for dinner. If for some reason it's celebrate the thing day at your house, I'm going to definitely make you some orange Jewish food. Ben Grimm was one of the first, if not only, Jewish
Yeah.
superheroes. Yeah, pretty cool, huh?
Definitely. And I mean, and you said that your first appearance here on PSVG, we talked about that when you mentioned Wookie Cookies, which was the name of that episode, that you were never into making something that just simply looked like whatever the subject matter was. You interpreted it. Like my favorite interpretation that you've done so far was the Jean Grey Cable episode.
Oh, nice.
Where you did the chicken and the egg. Like that was like the perfect,
Dude, it was so meta. Like,
yeah.
people were like, "Oh wow, neat, spicy and egg," and then it was like, "Yeah, oh my god, it's mother and son." Like, what the heck? Like,
yep, mind blown. And I mean, in every episode, it's funny. They're not super long, so it's not like it's a huge investment for somebody that wants to jump in and check it out. And you can learn a thing or two. And there's fun interviews. You learn about people, that you may not be tuned on to, but you might get some fans out of there too. So I'm sure that they love being a part of that as well with you.
Yeah, it's been great for everybody involved, and now it's when we first started, we had a Marvel's talent booker being like, "Hey, do you want to be on this show?" And then they'd be like, "Explain." And now people are like, "Hey, can we be on your show?"
And that's the dream right there. That makes life so much easier, and it's got to be easier for Marvel to say like, "Hey, there's still an interest in this, so let's keep making these things. Let's keep pumping them out."
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, they thought that the reception was so good that they brought me to Comic-Con to do an episode live, which was insane. And like, like the kind of people that are getting on the stage, the Marvel stage at Comic-Con are people like the cast of Iron Fist, yeah. Or like, everybody from Legion, or the people that were the VFX designers for Infinity War. And then Justin Warner, Lowly Chef. You know what I mean? Like, that was like bonkers. And then, I mean, it was just bonkers. It was so, yeah.
And I mean, that's the reason we wanted you back on to talk about your experience at San Diego Comic-Con. So let's rewind it just a little bit there. So how did you first find out this was going to go down? I mean, did like Marvel just call you up and was like, what's up, Justin? What you doing this weekend? Oh, nothing. Cool. You're going to Comic-Con. Or did you know about this for a little bit going into it?
So I knew about it a couple months ago, but it's not actually my first visit to San Diego Comic-Con. So somehow, like way back when, and kind of how I got in with Marvel was someone who was running like PR at Food Network was married to somebody at Marvel, and I think they saw me on the Food Network Star, whatever that show was I won way back when, and they were like, "This guy seems like a nerd," and so they were like, "Reach out, like maybe he wants to come to Marvel." And so I came to Marvel, and I was like, "Hey," and so I was on their podcast, and I met like a bunch of cool people, Ryan Penagos and Jim Viscardi. Jim Viscardi has since moved on, but I ended up running into him at Comic-Con. Anyway, we hung out, and they were like, "Hey, do you want to be on this panel?" That was some years ago. So I was like, I got a little dough saved up. Might as well take a little vacation and see what Comic-Con's all about. Do this panel, see if I can get some friends, get some fans, and see what's up. So that was kind of like what got the snowball rolling into Eat the Universe. And that was years ago. And we did a couple little ditties that you can find on YouTube, just as kind of like not fully fleshed out cooking things, but more like bits. And then when the show came, they were like, "Hey, this is doing well." And they're like, "We might as well just do it live at Comic-Con." And I was like, "Well, where do I sign?" Like, of course we're doing that.
Yeah, and it was cool. So like the video's up there. I found it the other day, and it's an extended episode. It's like 30 plus minutes long, obviously, because it's not cut down. It's not edited, anything like that. So before we get into some of the other things you did, what was it like having to do Eat the Universe with a live crowd out there? Not in a kitchen, no second takes, no editing, no do-overs at all. Like, was it a little nerve-wracking? Was it super drastically different, or are you just so tuned in at this point that it's like just a day at the office?
I'll tell you. So if it was mostly about logistics, right? So first things first, like when you're at Comic-Con, if you're staying in the vicinity of Comic-Con, you're not leaving Comic-Con. Like, you could try and you could think, "Hey, maybe I'll go see the rest of San Diego." But there are so many people there that it becomes like, I'm not saying it's a hassle, but it's not the easiest thing to leave there. So we're like, okay, ingredients, like that's thing one, because like I'm not gonna lug a suitcase full of ingredients from New York and then wait 3 days until it's time to use them live. So we're like, okay, logistically we need to figure out ingredients. So I was like, all right, I'll spend one night trying to get to Whole Foods and I'll get ingredients. But then the next question is, what are these ingredients? And so when you are when you're doing these things live, especially at Comic-Con, there are certain things that you can and can't do. So I had all these grand plans to to make flaming stuff. We established that we were going to do something with the Fantastic Four, and so I was like going to have flaming stuff, and like a taffy machine, and on and on and on, and things that'll disperse into the crowd that you can't see but you can smell, just like the Invisible Woman. And they're like, that sounds like a terrorist act, like like
No.
yeah. So anyway, we had to scale back dramatically to the point where you can't even use a knife there. Like, how are you going to bring a knife in there? So we basically, just doing what we could do, we decided, okay, what can we basically make? It's like a 4-ingredient thing that is going to work well. It's going to be harmonious. It's going to be delicious food that anyone can make, and I can make it somewhere between the hotel room and Comic-Con. So representing the Fantastic Four. So as you can see, there are like a lot of moving parts to this, and that's generally how it works. For example, when we were doing the episode with Flatbush Zombies, they were like, cool, it's got to be Venom. And I was like, great, any other requests? And they're like, we're really into Thai food. I'm like, great, no problem. And they're like, by the way, we're vegan. And I'm like, okay, like now we need to think about this. So yeah, I mean, that's what it was like. So we settled on making a caprese salad, which sounds simple, but if you can figure out where the invisible component of a caprese is going to be, then you can have my job.
Right.
But no spoilers. Yeah,
Fair
dude.
enough. Fair enough, man. So you go check that on YouTube. You can find it. It's definitely worth a watch there. And for me, one of the funniest things was too, because it's Comic-Con, because people like swag and they like getting free stuff. You guys were handing out Marvel Eat the Universe spoons.
Yeah, yeah, it was so good. So we were joined by Mike Mitchell. He was our guest. And Mike Mitchell, he's from the TV show Love, but he's also a big foodie. It's a Netflix show. Whatever, I'm dating myself. And so he's just like such a good sport. And like, I haven't watched the full live thing, but he was like such a good guy about the fact that like, hey, here's a plastic knife from the cafeteria right over there. It's your turn to expertly cut these gigantic, juicy, ugly heirloom tomatoes. And he was like, okay, as this thing, like, just like,
mush.
Yeah, it's like a bleeding heart, like, but a vegetable one. And yeah, so anyway, he was such a good sport about it, and he loved handing out these spoons. And so we developed the producer. His name's Garrett. Garrett's a good guy. I mentioned him once during the live thing, but Garrett came up with the idea with, what can we get them, like, you'll say fantastic and they say four, and I'm like, dude, like, let's lean into it. Let's make it our crutch word. Crutch words are words that you, in broadcast, you like lean on too much, like delicious, amazing, nice. And so anyway, I was like, ours is going to be fantastic. Every time I say fantastic, the audience will say four, and the people who are most riled up will get this free wooden spoon that says Eat the Universe on it. And like, people were like climbing over each other to get these spoons. And I was like, what? And it kind of became my like chant. I'd be like, spoon 'em, and people would love it. And I don't know, man. I honestly don't know that I've done a live event that was more fun, more engaging than that. And it was weird also to look through the crowd and be able to make eye contact with like anyone. Nobody was on their phones. No one was looking around. People were looking at what we were doing. Maybe because they wanted a spoon, but it could also be that what we were doing was like entertaining and engaging. And so like, wow, we did it, Mom.
Yeah, I mean, it for you, especially in that environment, like, you were playing to your crowd. That's your people right there, and they know that your genuine geekiness, nerdiness, whatever you want to call it, it's genuine. It's not an act. If you go and you do a live demo at like a food and wine festival, you may get more of a hoity-toity kind of crowd, and that's not really Justin Warner's style.
Yeah, they don't.
We don't. Your people, so I think they appreciated that, and they felt those vibes. And I mean, they were there for you, and you were genuinely excited, which then got them excited for it. So I think it was a very cool thing to see, an uncut episode, essentially, if you will.
Yeah, man. I'm glad you watched it. I haven't watched it yet. I was nervous, but it like worked out okay.
Yeah, no, I think it came off really good. And like I said, the whole spoon 'em joke is hilarious. I found the video while I was at work. I was watching the video while I was supposed to be working, but I was like dying every time you guys were yelling like spoon 'em, and then like the crowd just yelling Fantastic Four and stuff. It was good. It was good.
Dope, man. Glad you enjoyed.
Yeah, let's check it out. So, you did a whole bunch of other stuff though for Marvel besides just the Eat the Universe. You were on Marvel's live stage for a lot of different events. Well, one of the things I want to talk about that I saw you did a little video there from the Pinball Lounge, kind of highlighting a really awesome looking Guardians of the Galaxy pinball machine.
Yeah, dude. So I'm actually a pinball junkie. I grew up on it, loving it. I still like even on Switch, like there's like a Stern pinball game, and Stern actually is the pinball company. They're based out of Chicago, and so they sponsored this lounge there, and they brought in their machines, and it was free to play. And honestly, it was the chillest spot in all of Comic-Con. Like normally, you don't think of pinball as being like chill and relaxing.
Yeah.
But like you were like, oh man, this is great. Like no objective. There's no line. Like I don't have to deal with anything, and like I can just do something. And it was a brilliant marketing move. But anyway, yeah, so their whole team was there, and man, I'm a bad friend, but they had a pro pinball player there, and he was actually a Twitch streamer. I'll send you that later so you can put it in an addendum or comments.
Yeah, put it in the show notes. Yep.
Yeah, and so Marvel wanted to talk about the Guardians of the Galaxy pinball machine. I'm actually very familiar with it because when I shoot Triple G, GGG, Guardians of the Galaxy. When I shoot grocery games, I hang out with these dudes. Tommy, who plays pinball. If you're a Guess Who fan, that'll be relevant, right? So Tommy plays pinball along with my friend Morgan, who I also play Fortnite with. And you might have played with him once.
Yeah, I played with him. Yep.
Yeah, he's really good.
Yeah.
And so it's always a pleasure to play with you, Morgan. So give my shoulders a rest from carrying people.
Oh.
But anyway, so we play pinball there because like you're in wine country. So when you get off work, it's like, I wonder what we'll do. And so as a break, we decided we're going to play pinball, and then we formed the Santa Rosa Pinball Club. I think I'm treasurer, given that there's only 3 members. And so I love this Guardians of the Galaxy pinball table. When Marvel's like, hey, who wants to take it? I'm like chomping at the bit. It's a beautiful table. I find that compared to a lot of pinball tables, it shows you the objectives very clearly and actually has some degree of narrative to it. I mean, sure, you're just whacking balls, but there are like little story arcs that you can go through where you have to hit different targets in order to complete the story. And the targets that you have to hit are more relevant to some stories than to others. So, there's like this scene in the original Guardians of the Galaxy when they get the orb, they don't know that there's an Infinity Stone, and they're chasing after the orb, and there's this great part where your ball gets saved. Like if it hasn't been in play long enough, they're very friendly about the replays on that table. You'll see Peter Quill's hand dive and catch the ball, and then it's like ball saved, and then you're like back in business again. And there's a big button that you hit for the Hadron Collider that's Rocket's gun that like knocks a bunch of targets at once. And I got to tell you, the highlight though is the Groot multi-ball. So if you flick the ball enough times towards Groot, he will open his mouth, say I am Groot. If you get it in one more time, he will like kind of belch all of the balls onto the table, and that's like what triggers the multi-ball. And so I don't know if anyone's into pinball. Obviously, multi-ball is the highlight of any table. But when those balls come flying out of Groot's mouth, it's just like, I am Groot! Like, you're like, yes!
This is right!
Yes! So good! Oh, man. And so I was hanging out with the Stern guys. They were dope. And they taught me a bunch of stuff about pinball that mostly it was like, I didn't know there was a name for this technique, like a dead flip, for example. It's like where you can kind of bounce, you can juggle the ball between things and cradle it, that's called a dead flip. I might not be 100 on that, but I'm a big fan of jargon, so it was great to learn some pinball jargon. And they also let me play the machine before anyone else had even touched it. That's thing one.
Oh, nice.
I know, right? And then thing 2, by default, I got the high score. There might have been some TV magic involved with that and the pro player that happened to be there. But if you ever get a pinball machine that says WMD, Weapon of Mass Deliciousness, that was me.
There you go. Fair enough. So I actually didn't know you were a big pinball fan. So side note here, on Nintendo Switch, there's a game called Yoku's Island Express. Have you seen that at all?
No.
Okay, so this is a very unique game, but it's pinball related. So you play as a dung beetle,
I'm
and
into it.
you push along
Dung.
your ball of dung, and that's the pinball essentially. It's a Metroidvania type game, so you have a huge world with different levels. It's all grayed out, and you got to explore and go back and forth. But your mode of transportation is pinball flippers and bumpers and stuff like that. So it's a really cool dynamic. It's an indie game. I think it's like $20. So check that one out. That's a good one.
That'll happen. Look what's I got's right here.
Oh, see, there you go. There you go.
Yahoo!
Perfect. So yeah, check that one out. I've rented that at the recommendation of another staff member, and it's very cool. So
dope.
So what else did you do for Marvel during the con? We saw some Snapchat clips of you up there on stage talking about things. We got some funny art pictures there of you holding, I think it was like Spider-Ham.
Yeah, Spider-Ham toys.
Yeah. So yeah, what did you get? What else did you get to do for Marvel while you were there?
Well, so I mean, the most amazing things is I got to meet a lot of the people that make Marvel, and so we're talking writers, colorists, artists, creators, people that are involved externally, people that are involved internally, and the crazy thing was I think, we interviewed a lot of comedians, and I think that the biggest take-home lesson of all of these people, and I think that this applies to a lot of creatives, is that I would always ask the question, so what's your secret? Like, whether you're a comedian, whether you're a writer, whether you're a illustrator, what's your secret? And they said, well, I just do whatever makes me happy. And I was like, like, what? So comedians were like, yeah, I just write jokes that I think are funny. And like, people don't like them. Well, okay.
Not my audience then. Yeah.
Yeah, not my audience. And that's it. And so I was like, wow, that's like very obvious, but at the same time, I don't think that we live in that society as much anymore. I think we're like, oh, this demographic will really go after it, And so as complex individuals that all of these creators are, I think that that's what actually makes them successful and have fans and whatnot, is that they just are just themselves and they do what comes naturally. And so I thought that was pretty amazing, and not like, people weren't very like, this kind of hero is hip right now. Like, nobody said anything like that. Everything was very like heartfelt. And a lot of people, it didn't seem like it was a job so much as it was and I can't believe I got the opportunity to do this. So most of the people were like, most of the creators were fans growing up and like couldn't believe that they would ever do that. And some people had come from complete other lines of work. Some people came from within comics and had been working in comics, and it was their goal to work in comics from the get-go. So that was great, and I had a great cast of co-hosts for that. A bunch of just super awesome people. We had really great chemistry. I mean, it was like playing like subject volleyball, like bump set, and then someone come in and like spike and like drive in the great questions. And I also got to, as you know, I'm a Lego fanatic. I also got to do the tour of the Marvel section at the Lego booth.
Oh
man. Oh. So I had seen pictures of the new Spider-Man and Venom mechs that they're making.
Yep.
And so, like, some diehard fans might be like, is this canon? And I'd be like, this is amazing. I don't care. Because they're two very cool looking pieces of Lego mech type stuff. And so I got to play with them before anyone else, and I got to see them, and I got to see the pieces. And the cool thing is for a lot of people, I got to reveal that there are actually new elements in it. Elements are what we call pieces or parts that are specific to that set. Mm-hmm. So now, for example, there are going to be a ton of like people who like to build spooky stuff or castle stuff that are going to be like, new spider webs, because right now there are only like 3 spider web looking elements. And so now that with this set comes tons of new spidery stuff. Not to mention there's a kind of like the cockpit on the Venom mech is printed with the Venom eyes as opposed to being a sticker. Okay. So now if you want, you can take that little dome and you can make a Venom car, you can make a Venom airplane, you can make a Venom whatever you want, and it's going to look sick. Like, I mean, that's for the web pieces and for the printed Venom eye pieces. Maybe I'm going too deep in the nerd wormhole, but
Nah, it's all
it's
good.
worth buying those sets, hands down.
That's very cool. So, I mean, part of Comic-Con too is there's a ton of merch that's like Comic-Con exclusives.
Yes.
Now you're in the process of trying to downsize because, like you mentioned, you're in the process of a move here.
Yeah.
Was there anything you could not turn down and you just had to pick up some exclusives?
Oh boy. So there was a pin set where if you spend enough money, you would get this Galactus pin, and Galactus is eating a half planet, but he's eating it like cereal, and it's like very like kawaii style, and so like he's like munching, like using the Earth as a cereal bowl basically, and he looks amazing doing it. And then there's this like mortified Silver Surfer that's like no, like. And it's a pin set, so you can have both of them. So I was like, well, I got to spend enough money to get that, you know? And so I got the soundtrack from Runaways on vinyl.
Oh,
which,
nice.
Yeah, just for the art alone looks amazing. And then I also got, let's see, a Fantastic Four t-shirt, which was mostly for the demo, but also it's like a sick ringer. Like, it looks good. Like, it definitely, like, I felt like if you wanted to be, like, hipster Reed Richards, you know, like it would be for a very easy cosplay.
Yeah, skinny jeans and that's about all you need.
Yeah, right. I'll just like, you know, spray a little gray up in the sides there. That was about it. I did get my wife is obsessed with this indie comic called Snot Girl. Just Google it. I would be explaining something I don't know a lot about if I were to explain it. But the art in it is dope. It reminds me of like a very modern kind of stylized and also somewhat tragic Archie era comics. And it's beautiful. It's beautifully illustrated. And so I got her 3 limited edition t-shirts from there that also happened to be from one of her favorite t-shirt makers. And it was like a collab made in heaven. But they sold out. Like, I mean, I had to, like, it was weird being this like dude that's just like, all right, ladies, let's get these shirts. You know, like it was like all these gals, and I was just like, yeah, it's for my wife. You know, like, it was bizarre.
And they're like, sure it is, yeah.
Right, and so I mean, there was stuff that you wanted everywhere. I mean, everywhere. It doesn't matter what you're a fan of. They have it. They have it in spades. Like you want a life-size replica of the Soldier 76 assault rifle. You got it. You want a flamingo pickaxe from Fortnite? They got it. Like what? Like the sky was the limit, and people thought of everything.
That's very cool. So let's transition here and talk a little bit about some of the off-camera stuff you got to experience, because obviously you were working. This was a working event for you. As much fun as you had, as much enjoyment you had, you were working. But I do know you got some hands-on time with a certain PS4 exclusive that might be happening to drop this fall.
It's true.
So let's talk a little bit about that.
So I got to play Spider-Man exclusively for PS4. I think I'm supposed to say Marvel's Spider-Man. Sorry. Marvel's Spider-Man for PS4. And oh man, it's made by Insomniac, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, Insomniac Games.
So it's made by Insomniac Games, and I got to spend about 20 minutes with it, and it was difficult because in that 20 minutes you want to do as much as you can, but the thing is like from the second that game starts, you were like, this feels good. Like it's not like, oh wow, this is intuitive, or wow, the mechanics are so fluid. You're like, this feels nice. It felt like almost more of like a gratifying physics game. Like, I don't know, Super Monkey Ball. You know,
love Super Monkey Ball.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, that was a gratifying physics game where everything felt just so. And so, like, the web swinging and the fluidity to the acrobatics and the way Spider-Man will, like, stick to walls when you're near walls or run up walls when you have enough momentum to run up them. It was all so incredibly fluid and amazing that even if it was, I mean, if this game seriously was just a Spider-Man simulator, like no objectives, just be Spider-Man, swing around, it would be worth it. But then you have toolkits, and then you have objectives, and then you have boss fights, and then you have special suits, and then you have, and then you have, and then you have, and it just keeps going, and you're like, well, I'll find a flaw. And so I'm like, watch this. So I get into a little fight where I'm like surrounded by Wilson Fisk, aka the Kingpin's henchman, and this is on top of a construction site. And so I'm doing cool stuff to fight him. And the cool thing is that each fight gave you like bonus, like flare objectives. So like it was like knock out 3 guys using this type of web shot. Cool. Knock out 2 guys using this piece of kit that you have. Cool. Easier said than done, but it also makes you a pro at doing those things. And so you don't have to stress about it. You can mash buttons the entire time and still do fine. But if you want to have like finesse, it like rewards that. And so I thought that was a really cool mechanic. But I kind of wanted to test I've played similar superhero games like this where they're somewhat open world and you can swing around, not naming any names. But a lot of times I noticed there was a disconnect between when you go into a battle and when you leave a battle. I feel like you dive into the battle, like a little trigger scene happens, and then, okay, now you're in fighting stance. Well, okay. And then if you were to leave the ring, whatever that idea of a ring is, whatever the programmer's design is, the fighting space, well, then you've left the battle and you have to trigger it again. With this, I was leaving the roof of the place and people were following me, looking after me. I was coming back up, throwing them off the roof. I don't know if Spider-Man actually does that, but that felt pretty great. And yeah, I just sent them plummeting. And you're just doing great stuff. Like there will be environmental things that you can grab and swing around and knock people back and then chuck them. And oh my gosh, like it was just a barrel of laughs, man. It was fun. And I kept saying to myself, like out loud, like, oh, like, because like things were so good and fluid and dramatic and it felt great. And like when you're like swan diving and then you pull yourself with a web at the last second, it's the arc that you get off that and then the leap that you get off of it feels so good. And you like come above the skyline and you see above the skyline and then you're like, I'm the highest thing. You know,
yeah,
like
what am I attaching to? Yeah,
dude, I was like in the middle of like a park, and like aside from like a little tree, you know, there was nothing I could shoot on, and I was like, this is so smart. And I think one of the things that made Homecoming so great was when Peter realizes he's like in a park, and there's like there's nothing for him to swing around. Yeah, so I thought that was super cool. The spider sense mechanic I thought was great. You see little like lines near his head, just like in the comic, that indicate there's an attack incoming. So easy to dodge. My favorite dodge of the whole thing is he will web somebody and then slide underneath of them, like through the legs. Yeah. And like that just feels so great to pull off. Oh my god, I don't have any concerns about that game. Like I was like, they were like, okay, your time's up, and I'm like, pre-order.
So yeah, I mean, and this was Insomniac Games, so this was announced a little while ago, and I think everybody at first was like, instantly you got to compare it to the game we won't mention because it's not a Marvel game, and we're gonna stay on point here, on brand, and you know, can it be as good as that game series? And I think that was everyone's concern, because then you look at Insomniac Games, they're not known for this style of game. They're known for Ratchet and Clank. They're known for Spyro the Dragon and Resistance series on PlayStation, the shooter game. Like, they're not known for superhero games. So this is like their first crack at it. But then everything we've seen seems super polished, super fast, super fluid. And it's good to hear that for all intents and purposes, what you're saying is what we've seen is legit. Like, that's what we're going to get.
Yeah, dude. I mean, like I said, the experience that I had playing it for 30 minutes felt so new, so fluid, and so novel that I was like, I would have to work to find something wrong, or maybe, I don't know, maybe it's going to be in something that I didn't discover yet. But I can tell you that this will be a game that, like, people who aren't interested in Spider-Man, people who don't love GTA, will simply love it for the web swinging mechanic, because it feels so good. And the game is beautifully done, and like there are details everywhere. Like I was like, let's find a restaurant. So I like went up to a restaurant, and then it had like Daily Bugle recommends, you know, like in the thing, you know, like in the corner where a normal restaurateur would put the sign that says that. And so there were just little like thoughtful details here and there. As you're running around the street, people will try and take a selfie with you. You can opt to pose with them or not. it was just 100% Spider-Man. It felt like Spider-Man.
That's awesome. I mean, that's good to hear because I mean, for everything that Marvel has done now with the cinematic Peter Parker now has been, I mean, maybe some people would argue they're crazy if they do. Tom Holland iteration is the best we've seen, I think, as far as Spider-Man personified on the big screen.
Yeah.
And it's good to see that this seems to be capturing that same spirit and just, you know, pushing it forward in the video game that now we can play it.
Yeah, I feel like the time period this is set in is collegiate. I don't know where I heard that from. Don't quote me on that.
Okay.
Maybe that's not true. So he feels a little bit more mature than in Homecoming, but at the same time, it doesn't feel. It feels like he's gotten his 100% confidence of being Spider-Man, but he still has the uncertainties and the quips and the quirks and the everything that makes Spider-Man Peter Parker a lovable character.
Exactly. That's perfect. That's great to hear. That eases a lot of people. I think everybody kind of realized this was going to be another exclusive hit for Sony, regardless. But it's good to talk to somebody who's got some hands-on experience with it and is saying, nope, it's legit. What you're seeing is going to be good. Now, did you pre-ordered the game? Did you see the sweet PS4 Pro Spider-Man one that's coming out with it?
Well, so here's the thing about the PS4 Pro. I'm not going to buy that PS4 Pro because I have a PS and I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
And oh man, the problem is the TV that I had my PS running on is 1080p, so it's like I don't need 4K. But now I'm moving, and my sole video display is going to be my 4K monitor. So now I'm like, oh, I need a PS4 Pro. But you didn't hear that, babe. But anyway, I was looking at that thing, and I was like, man, that thing is hot. That red is loud. That spider is angular. I love this thing, but more than anything, it has answered a question that has plagued the internet recently. It's kind of like the Marvel version of is a sandwich a hot dog. People want to know, is Spider-Man's outfit red with blue or blue with red?
Ooh.
But the PS4 Pro is red.
Yes. So,
I am inclined to argue that his outfit is red with blue trim.
I think that's fair. We'll go with that. You should be able to call somebody and get that answer, though, by the way.
Fight us in the comments below.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Let us know. There actually has been in our Discord a lot of arguments back and forth of whether or not that system is hideously ugly or it's the best one ever. I'm in the camp with you that that thing is awesome looking. That is, I don't have a PS4 Pro either. I've been fine with my standard one so far. I was like, but if I were to make that jump, and I'm trying not to, much like you, that's the one to get. That thing is beautiful.
Well, the thing that I like about it is that it says one thing, and that's, I'm here to game. It's not trying to look like your toaster or look like your iPod or look like, some everything else. Like this lamp vaguely looks like it's an iPod attached to a stick. There's been something weird in design that has annoyed me, where everything has to be matte black and stainless steel and blah, blah, blah. Is one of the things that I loved about the Wii. It was a white console. Imagine, also the GameCube. Of course, Wii U, you could get cool skins for it, but it was mostly just black. They didn't make a white Wii U, did they?
The basic model was white, the one that didn't come with the hard drive. Oh, well, but that was only for a very limited amount of time they did that one.
Right. Well, we know which one I got two of. Yeah. But I feel like the Switch is amazing. It stands out if you want it to, and I feel like that the red on that Joy-Con is very similar to the red in that PlayStation 4, and I think that might, I don't know, I think there's something to be said there that people are willing to put something on their shelf that is not blending in with the rest of their tech, but being an exciting item in its own right.
Right. It doesn't have to look like a cable box, which is kind of what they've all been going for, is like, hey, we just want to blend with your DVD player or whatever. It's like, no, it can be its own thing, and that's okay. So, all right, moving on. I also heard you got to at least see, you didn't get to play, but probably what's been announced so far by Nintendo, what's going to be the biggest game of the year for them, hands down, and that's Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Yes.
Tell us about what you saw there.
So there were a ton of people there. Nintendo was doing a great job moving the line and managing the time. I just could not. It was far enough away from the Marvel booth that it was like, all right, an extra hour of sleep or play Smash Brothers. And I was like, who am I interviewing today? Oh, okay, we're gonna go for the extra hour of sleep, which disappoints me as a fan. But here's the one thing that I think everyone needs to understand, guys. It's Smash Brothers Ultimate for Switch. You can think what you want about Brawl, but Smash for Wii U is amazing. Smash Melee is amazing.
Mhm.
Like, they're not gonna call the game Ultimate and change so much that I have to play it. What I was concerned of is what are these new characters going to be like? What's it going to look like with 4K or HD graphics, or I don't know what the Switch runs at. It's 1080p. You know, what is it going to look like? Are there going to be updates with the Switch's processing power? And I got to say, it looks like the best Smash game I've ever seen. Everybody, of course, was playing as Ridley. You know, like duh. But I think that they have incorporated some smart new levels from what I could see. And then also, I think that I know this sounds crazy, but increasing the roster and putting Snake back in, and not only is that doing fan service, but I think that it is providing a more complicated game. You know, I think for Smash for Wii U, you know, when Bayonetta came out, who was very off the wall sort of character, like totally different than everybody else, you know, people kind of lost their mind a little bit because there weren't any like super quirky characters. There was no Pichu, there were no ice climbers. You know, Rosalina and Luma is the weirdest thing you have to deal with, and nobody plays with
them.
her.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, other than that, it's pretty straightforward. You got your projectiles and you got your big characters that smack people around. So I think it's going to be exciting to add some trickier characters into the roster. And I mean, it looked gorgeous. One thing that I noticed in the demo that I'm not sure if it's going to be in the final model or not, or the final release, was in the upper right corner of the screen, there was a small box with dots in it, and the dots represented the characters, and the box represented the ring space around the level.
Okay.
And so what was cool is that you could kind of, you know, maybe the camera zoomed out, maybe it's zoomed in, but you could kind of gauge where you were in relevance to like getting knocked out. So like, I don't know if it's happened to anybody, maybe I'm a noob, but I've stood on like a high platform, somebody's come up, nudged me a little bit when they've hit me with like a weak attack, but because I was high enough damage, I would go flying off. But the point is like, there is like a reminder, like, hey dude, you're standing near the edge of the ring. And so I thought that was a neat little addition that is going to help people who aren't familiar with Smash. Like, I don't know who's not familiar with Smash, but that being said, yeah, it's not a normal fighting game. And if you ask John Q. Public, like, what is a fighting game? They're not going to say, well, it's based on ring outs. Like, what? Right? So, yeah, man, I'm pumped for it. The enthusiasm was there. Kids who were playing it with it loved it. I talked to a couple cats that played it, and nobody was like, oh my God, it's so broken. You know, like, I don't know that wave dashing is coming back, but I definitely think that when they say Ultimate, this is probably going to be the biggest and best version of Smash that we've seen, and I don't think that you're going to have many complaints. You know, I think this is all going to boil down to, what does the single player look like?
Yeah.
You know, is this going to be Subspace Emissary?
I want that back so bad. So bad I want them to do that again.
Right? Like, I don't know. I don't know. We'll see what that looks like, you know, but knowing Nintendo and knowing how, you know, like, if they treat this game like they treated Breath of the Wild and just packed it full of stuff that you can do that may or may not be the actual game, I think you're going to be thrilled. I think if they can add as much quirk and finesse as in Splatoon, this is going to be a hell of a game. And I think that Nintendo has really zeroed in on what rules and like what is meh. Certain key things that I didn't see, but like the idea that you can kill assist trophies, that's going to be great. You know, I'm the kind of person that plays with items on, because I think that's the way the game was intended. When you boot the game up, it puts you on time and it puts you on items on medium. So I say to people, like, you know, there is a certain amount of RNG in this, but also just get to the damn Pokeball before I do. You know, like, duh. My friends hate playing items with me. I love items. But anyway, I think that they're doing a little bit to balance the RNG and like the fairness of that, and giving you some like workarounds with how to deal with items.
That's very cool. That's very cool. That's another one that's for sure pre-order. We're already doing tournament nights and stuff like that with the PSVG community. So looking forward to that one as well.
I'm also curious, like, has there ever been before the Amiibo a peripheral that would work past 2 generations of platform. You know what I mean? So like it works. It came out with Wii U, and
well,
then it
technically the only thing would be the GameCube controllers, because they always have
right.
the adapter since GameCube for Wii, Wii U, and now even the Switch is going to have them where you can still use your GameCube controls. But that's all I know of.
Right, that's wild. But like, did any of the like Skylanders or anything work from like PS2 to 3 to 4 or whatever?
Yes, yeah, all
Yeah.
the Toys to Life so far have done that. But the fact that Nintendo's going back and making the amiibos for all, not only the new characters they're introducing, but the ones that were before that didn't get amiibo,
Yeah,
is pretty cool. So you're seeing Snake is going to have one, you know, Ice Climber is going to have one, Pichu and all those kind of things. They're going to get their own.
trying to save money, dude.
Sorry. I
Oh
mean,
my God, Snake Amiibo, you got to be killing me, dude.
it's okay. You won't be able to find them anywhere, so it's okay. Just,
Yeah, right.
you know how it is. You'll have to pre-order now. Wolf, was it Wolf, Ridley, and the Inkling Girl are all up for pre-order now. None of the others are yet. So
yeah, dude, Snake, come on, man, that is gonna be so cool. Oh, I don't know. That's gonna look so awesome. Like I was pumped just to get like. I thought Cloud was just such a great addition.
Yeah.
I feel like when I started playing Smash Brothers I played on 64 a little bit, but I fell in love with Melee.
Mhm.
Like I was also playing like Final Fantasy VII at that time, and so I just feel like and Metal Gear on like PS2, you know. And so like yes, like Mario is definitely my hero, but like duh, so is Snake, so is Cloud. Like that was like the core like eating pizza, hanging out with my boys, not wearing deodorant, like time of life, you know.
For sure. So before we move on, is there anything else you wanted to talk about from San Diego Comic-Con that I didn't bring up that you'd like to share?
Let me think. Nah, not particularly. I just had a blast, and like obviously big ups to Marvel. Thanks to Marvel for having me there, and thanks to the people that came up and said, "Hey, can we like take a picture? I'm a huge fan of your work." Like that's amazing. And like sometimes Comic-Con, especially if you're working, it can be a little stressful because everybody else is having a really great time doing their own thing, but you're like working, so you're doing what the agenda for the group is. And you know, the people that would like, I would kind of be like leaving Comic-Con being like, oh my God, where's the hot tub? And they'd be like, hey, oh my God, it's you. And so that makes my day. And like, you know, if you see me out, don't ever hesitate. I'm a fan of you as much as you're a fan of me.
That's got to feel good. That's fun.
Yeah, dude.
So before we wrap it up, you got some time for some listener questions we got?
That's why I'm here.
All right, let's do it. So these are better than last time. Some little off the wall things here. So what does Justin use in his epic trademark hair?
Oh, well, it really depends on the paycheck, but when we're eating good, I like to use Bumble and Bumble products. When we're eating medium, I really like Zax Wax, and I think Zax Wax is like a good brand as like they're a small group. It's like a small family-owned company. It's named after a kid named Zach who wanted his hair to be a certain way. So big shout out to them. They're great. And I think that for kind of like the everyday sort of thing, like I don't need to make it last forever. You know, on TV, you need a different set of products. It's totally true. Like, because like the problem is like if one hair gets out of place, someone comes and fixes it. So like if you want to be like, I'm not saying getting my hair fixed is a bad thing. It's fun to be pampered and like, you know, gussied up. But at the same time, like if you want to not stop the shooting of the show, then you need your hair to be like a rock. So there's that. And then on like, oh man, I'm out in the woods and I have to shoot tomorrow. I'll just get like whatever. My secret is that I always have access to a blow dryer. I've probably purchased like 30 blow dryers in my TV career. Simply because like I was like, there's an opportunity to be my normal self, or my TV self. I gotta have the hair, so I'll like run to CVS, buy the crappiest dryer, buy the crappiest gel, whatever comb I can find. And so what I do is I throw the gel in, comb it, slick it back, but then I blow dry it while brushing it. And so what that does is if you've ever gelled your hair and then you rub the gel out and it's every which way and it's puffy and voluminous, by brushing while blow drying, you're simultaneously drying the gel but also breaking the gel. So it kind of trains your hair to get more like mine.
the height on it. So I will say I have noticed though that on Triple G you've bounced back and forth between your trademark height hair, if you will, and then letting some curls rock this year. I've noticed that a few times.
it's a long story, but um, let's just say that I think that I do better when I don't have the biggest hair on set.
Okay.
Um, that is just something that maybe that's true, maybe that's not true. I don't know. It's just the way I feel. And so I would talk to the gals. They have these fantastic hair and makeup twins there. They're the Dempsey twins, Leah and Leia, or Leia and Lisa. And they were like, "Your hair's curly, dog. Like, let's just do it curly." And I'm like, "Okay." And then when I do it, like everyone on set is like gushing, and I'm like, "Oh boy!" And they'll be like, "What'll it be, champ?" And I'm like, "Curls again." And they're like, "Okay." And then people gush, and they're like, "Great job," And like we're having it. So I don't know. We're having a good season of grocery games so far. I have like 1.5 wins under my belt this season, which is good. Let's see. I mentored the little kid Palmer. He's not even a little kid anymore. He plays Fortnite with me, and he's like 14.
Yep.
But he was like my TV son. So I won with him, and then I won on my own, beating out Aaron May and Carl.
Yeah, you did.
In the April Fool's episode. Oof! I brought a salad to a meat fight. That was a good one.
That was epic. Watching that one. I think that's my favorite one so far. Like just the challenges were demonic, and then you just pulled it out, man.
Dude, so much more to come. So much more to come. That show is like What Shark? They use sharks as leap pads to leap over. They're like the zanier the better. Maybe I'll get in trouble, but I don't. It's not that I don't care. It's just that I'll ask forgiveness. But there's gonna be a spicy episode sooner or later. Ooh. And this will be some absolute TV magic. So when you see the spicy episode, you got to tune in for that. They like blew the budget on the tomfoolery.
Really?
Yeah. So that's what products I use in my hair.
There you go. Say that works. All right. So next question. Now that we've all cooked our way through your cookbook, when is Justin's next cookbook coming out?
Any plans? I think you know what? It might be time to just like announce. I haven't announced officially what the phase 2 of the Justin Live-O-Matic universe looks like. But so as we said, I'm moving. But the cool thing is I just purchased an RV, like a big motorhome. It's a Class A if you're an RV junkie, which I'm slowly turning into. It's actually part of it was like, hey, this seems like fun, and I work remotely all the time anyway. I might as well just do this, take my family with me when I'm shooting, take them with me to Comic-Con, live in Mexico during winter while everyone else is dealing with winter. And I'm like cheap with Coronas and tacos, like, so like the logistics seemed good, and it seemed like something that I could make work. So I actually spent some of the money that I won on Triple G to get this RV off of Craigslist. And I think what I'm going to do is kind of, obviously food and nerd stuff is going to be something that is never going to leave me. But the cool thing is that I've told everybody about this RV, and everybody says, well, that's what I want to do. And when I talk about like going to Comic-Con, people say, well, that's what I want to do. And when I talk about making great food, people are like, that's what I want to do. And so basically, I just want to add another thing that I can help people along their merry way. So, what does the cookbook look like? It might be, hey, I made this with 3 burners off of a propane tank and literally 1 cutting board's worth. My countertop is an insert that I put into the sink.
Yeah. Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, so if I can the goal is like, if I can make stuff in there, then you can probably make it anywhere. And I also think that as I travel around, it's going to be fun to find ingredients and maybe figure out a way to manipulate them, say, using a camp stove, using a hotel. So, like, if you're stuck in San Diego, here's the food you should be eating. Here's the ingredient that you should learn how to cook in your coffee maker at your hotel. It might be a book of that. I think, though, for my next book, I think what I'm going to do is self-publish and just promote the heck out of it and put it in Amazon, like errors and everything. And the reason I say that is because I think I've discovered that the more I geek out about stuff, the more niche I tend to be. Mm-hmm. And so obviously everyone likes cooking, but I think I want to do more focused and less broad stuff where it's like, hey, do you want to talk about all the Japanese stuff that I like to make? Do you want to talk about all the stuff that you could make outdoors or in an RV? And just do like little micro books that are probably just, for e-reader only. Mm-hmm. And, hopefully make a couple bucks here and there doing that. But I mean, the thing is, like, once you do that stuff, you like it. Well, at least if you're me, once you do stuff like that, you really want to share it. Yeah. And so it's tough to, Like, I don't really love blogging. I don't love that people have to dig through to find it.
Mhm.
I feel like just having a device where it's like, I have the recipe, there it is, and then I'll scroll while I'm cooking. I think that's the future, and I think that's the way to do it.
I agree. I think that's a good move. I mean, everyone's doing the social media thing and kind of pushing their own stuff there too. You don't need to have a big, publishing company push the thing and go through all that bureaucracy and red tape just to get your message out there and your product out there. You can do it guerrilla style, grassroots.
Yeah. Well, it's not going to cost me anything, really. You know what I
Right.
mean? Other than my time, which, I mean, if you've seen my how much time I've spent on Fortnite lately, I have plenty of it.
Although you haven't been on Fortnite that much lately. Last couple
Well,
weeks, you've been busy.
yeah. I mean, dude, there was a dry spell for like 2 weeks where I was in between like major projects where I was like, well, it's 9 o'clock in the morning. It's time for my breakfast shift at Fortnite. And then I'll be like,
Yeah.
all right, well, it's lunch. Got to work the lunch shift at Fortnite. Dinner, looks like I pulled another triple. Hi, honey. How are you? Yeah, I haven't moved. So it's been good for me to kind of step back from that and focus on, I tell you, the crazy thing about this RV is that it's forced me to focus on extremely tangible physical things, because the RV is not only is it your abode, it's your shelter, it's your food, it's your transportation. And so understanding how all of this works and how it moves is so critically important. It's truly like being the captain of a ship, like if the plumbing doesn't work, it's like, oh, Christ, we have to make another stop. And if you're making a stop, then you're not going. And if you're not going, then you're not where you need to be. And so I don't know. I've had a lot of really eye-opening experiences with what I'm lacking in terms of my skill set. Like it's totally weird. The other day I was towing my Jeep and I couldn't get the Jeep unhooked from it because I foolishly attempted to untrail the Jeep on a hill. Why I was stuck on a hill, we don't need to talk about. But I was like, okay, I don't even really have any tools. But then I figured out, okay, I can use 2 screwdrivers to like pound this thing out. And I pounded the pin out, the Jeep released, everything was great. But then the screwdriver got stuck in the couple. It replaced the thing that I attempted to take out. At least it had a handle. Then we get the pliers out. Great, we solved it. You know what I mean? But around your house, you're not like getting your entire life stuck until you get the damn pin out.
Yeah.
So all of my life was reduced to literally a metal pin right here, and we were not going to be able to do anything else until that pin was removed. That's great, man.
Fair
I don't know.
enough.
Maybe it's not great. Am I not selling this well? Maybe I'm not selling it well, but
No,
I loved it.
It's an adventure, and that's essentially what you're doing, what you're going on. And you're right, just to compact everything into a much smaller space, metaphorically and physically.
Yeah.
You're gonna have a different set of challenges than the average person. So the next question, I anticipate you're not going to be able to talk about, perhaps, but we'll give it a shot anyway. Is Justin going to be making an appearance / working on Return of the Eats with Alton Brown?
AB and I still text. That's all I can say. You know what I mean? Like, that's all I can say. We'll see. If I could confirm or deny, I would confirm or confirm or deny. But right now, I know as much as everybody else. That being said, I could text a guy right now and probably ask. But the thing is, the thing about Good Eats, well, the original Good Eats, is that it was a masterpiece. Mm-hmm. And so, I'm not going to be like, hey, Beethoven, can you hear me? Was he the deaf one? He was the deaf one, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? You don't interrupt people when they're doing their damn thing. If Beethoven says I need a little horn, and Mr. Warner is the person to play the horn, gladly I will play the horn. I personally, though, will simply, the reward in all of this for me will be Return of the Eats. That is what I'm looking forward to. If for some reason AB wants me to be a part of it, by all means, that'll be great. But I'm in this for all of us. I want Return of the Eats more than I want to be in Return of the Eats. Sure. That's how much I want Return of the Eats. Right?
Absolutely. I'm there with you. That was the first food related show that got me into the whole Food Network vibe and everything like that too. So that's something I've been pumped for a long time. I went and saw his live show when he was out touring, doing the music and the cooking live, type thing with the giant pizza oven made from stage lights and all that kind of stuff. So I've always been an Alton Brown fan, so I'm excited too. So I completely hear what you're saying, and you're right. It'd be better to be invited in on the project than knock on the door saying, "Hey, I hear you're doing a thing. Can I come too?" You know.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like I think he's aware that fans would like that. But I think just like Return of the Eats, when AB and I get together, it's a big deal, and so the longer we wait, the bigger the deal.
I agree. Okay, so moving on then, off food related stuff for a little bit. Your favorite comic book character and why?
Oh man, that's difficult. Um, oh, so I grew up as a hands down a Spider-Man guy. I loved Spider-Man. And I loved him because I kind of identified. I was a little bit of like a timid sort, but I always felt like I had this other side to me that was bold and adventurous and wanted to stick to walls. So I loved that. I also, I don't know, like not to get all mushy mush, but like Uncle Ben was this old dude, and obviously he died, and he's the reason that great power comes with great responsibility. And so the weird thing is, my dad was born in 1927, so I had this very old father. And so my parents were very smart, and they were like, by the way, your dad's old, like sooner or later he will pass, and it will probably be sooner or later than anyone else in your peer group. And so I think that was smart because it actually made me very well equipped to deal with death in ways that aren't a shock. I'm pretty, like, I don't know, I'm good at coping with that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always identified to having this older figure that you knew time was limited and that you needed to kind of seize every moment with.
Totally.
And he also gave me a lot of lessons like that. Like a dadism of mine was like, son, grades are a rubber yardstick. And I was like, I don't know what the hell that means. Like,
what's a rubber yardstick?
Well, you could measure things with a rubber yardstick, but it wouldn't be an accurate measurement of what it actually was, right? Because the yardstick would be rubber. So he was saying, like, yeah, grade is grading you at a thing, but that might not be the most accurate rubric in which to grade you upon that thing, or whatever. So, like, I got a C in handwriting in third grade and was like mortified. And he's like, son, grades are a rubber yardstick. He wasn't John F. Kennedy, but
I was gonna say, like, you're going that route.
He came out that way.
So the next question. So I think it's kind of sidetrack a little bit. So Triple G is its own thing, and it's amazing. And I think honestly, at this point, after watching it for so long, I feel that regardless of who's competing on the show, it's more about Guy and the judges. And if the judges are competing, there's obviously a different type of relationship when he drops a challenge on you, seeing those reactions from the people that you've gotten to know and see all the time there. So personally, obviously I'm rooting for you every time I see you on there, but another fan favorite to kind of come out of the last couple seasons, I'd say, is Carl the Cuban Ruiz. So
yeah.
The question that came in is, Carl scared to compete against Justin Warner? And if not,
oof,
he should be. That's the quote I got.
Ooh. Well, I mean, so far, what? I mean, I beat him that one time, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying he should be scared, but he should understand that I've seen behind the curtain. I know what actually is within Carl Ruiz, and the guy, Kujins, why are you doing this to me thing? I know what is behind there, and I'm not saying that that's a facade or that's simply there to entertain, because Carl, above all things, is an entertainer. He's truly one of the funniest people I've ever seen. He's one of the smartest, but like, don't let that fool you. He's one of the smartest people I've ever seen, because you might say, like, oh, Carl, like, he acts like a buffoon. But the thing is, Carl is writing that, or the little man inside of the Carl bot is writing that furiously. Like, he's coding as it goes, And so, like, I've hung out with Carl a long time. Actually, check this out. Stand by.
Okay.
Carl and I actually, we made a pilot together that never aired.
Oh my God, you serious?
Yeah, and so this is the only thing that I have left from it.
Oh my God.
It was even before I wore glasses. And so Carl and I went around. I'll see if they can release the trailer that we made for it. But Carl and I went around and ate stuff, and it was an incredibly good time. Carl and I are also very dangerous together because, well, the problem is we're both bon vivants, we both look around us and say, what would make this better? Generally, it's a drink. aside from like when we're driving, but we're also what would make this worse, and we're like us having to drive, and so like as like basically like gourmet slugs, like all we want is to just like consume, have a good time, buy out the jukebox, make people laugh, get lots of drinks, like it's Carl. And yeah, so the question is Carl afraid? No, but I think I'm one of the few people that understand Carl's playbook and know truly how scrappy of a cook he is. I mean, he's Brooklyn born and raised, and so he's got this level of smart that it's scrappy, man. I don't know where it came from other than probably Brooklyn and fending for himself and just having to be a tough kid. But he knows from the most regional of regional dishes from Latin America that are like, yes, and it's just simply marinated guinea pig, all the way up to like he worked at Le Bernardin, which is like Eric Ripert, Anthony Bourdain's friend. That's his restaurant. And so like Carl, he's also a wine genius. Like Carl knows a lot more than he lets on, and that's his like superpower. But when you know that someone knows, it shakes him a little bit. And I also think that maybe Carl knows, like I think he knows Justin's unpredictable, but that's not knowing much.
Right. And you both play the underdog, I think, in these competitions. Like you both play as like it's just little Justin or little Carl, don't worry about them. And then Carl just plays it up by making like a killer dish that comes out here, where you will go the route of I'm gonna make something totally out there. Like you guys, like you said, bringing a salad to a meat fight. Like you're gonna go the unexpected route. And I mean, you even said that in your episode with Palmer there that that's the key. You make a dish, two people doing chicken, then you do something totally different because that's what the judges are gonna remember.
I mean, there's a game within a game, my friend. It's the meta. So like the meta of grocery games, like it either works in your favor or it doesn't. But definitely when it comes to like budget battle and there's a protein on sale, look around. Don't get the same protein as everybody else. One of these things is not like the other. Make them eat each other alive. I mean, that with Palmer, that was literally a fish taco contest, and we rolled up with a chicken sandwich. You know what I mean? Like, let them. You can't compare, So when they say apples, I go oranges, for better or worse.
Makes sense. So another Marvel-related question: your favorite Marvel show and your favorite Marvel movie?
Ooh, why you gotta do that to me? I mean, the first answer is probably 90s X-Men. If you're looking for a modern version of what is my favorite Marvel show, I loved Runaways. Like I thought it was great in terms of like it felt like almost like a 90210 or something, but with people with superpowers, and it felt like it brought me back to like I don't know, those crazy like shows that were on Nickelodeon, like I don't know, like Alex Mack and stuff, where and where it was just a little bit young adult. Those were a little bit young adult, but this felt like a little bit like older young adult, and dealt with a lot of I don't like calling them issues because someone's sexuality is not an issue to me, but it introduced a lot of things that maybe someone's parents aren't talking to them about, or maybe they're not getting factual information from school, or maybe they don't have characters like that in their lives. And so I thought that did a really remarkable job of being a great TV show for young people, and I also happen to love it. And then I don't know, man. In terms of movies, dude, I think my ultimate favorite was probably Winter Soldier.
It's a great one.
The fight scenes in that, the choreography in that, they were so blunt and well coordinated, choreographed rather, from the get-go, with Black Widow and Cap just like infiltrating this entire ship, and you really felt like you didn't feel like they were superheroes. You felt like they were like operatives. And
it was like Mission Impossible almost. Yeah,
and I feel like that's something that you don't touch on a lot, especially with the Avengers, and especially given that like they were a government kind of sanctioned thing for a little bit. Like that's like that's a cool thing. They're not getting like in that specific thing, you're not dealing with a ton of like mystical powers and like craziness, you know? You're dealing with an internal threat that threatens to destabilize everything and then blow up the United States. Like, that was bonkers. And I just thought that that was such a great plot line for Cap, and I thought Robert Redford was amazing casting in that.
Yep.
And it was just great. And I think that if you look at the entire MCU, that was a political thriller, and I liked that. And I thought that it was a kind of an interesting change of pace from super people doing super things. And I mean, I love those too. Don't get me wrong. After that is probably Guardians of the Galaxy, where it's completely fantastical,
right?
And like the polar opposite. But I felt like the kind of the realness of that was legit.
Okay, fair enough. So two last questions, and we'll get you out of here on your way. So next one is Richard Blaze has a podcast. Carl Ruiz is doing podcasts with Opie. When is Justin getting his own show?
I mean, here's the thing. Podcasts, in my opinion, aren't difficult to physically like make. You just need a microphone. But what I think podcasts really need is unique subject matter, and they need a unique format that presents something new that can be reliably and easily digested on a very regular schedule. So basically, you're like making like the Enfamil of like content. You know what I mean? So the question is, one, and those guys are incredible podcasters, don't get me wrong, you know what I mean? Like, they're doing like, you know, an entire meal every week. But what I'm saying is that I think I don't want to rush into a podcast because I want to make sure all of those other things are satisfied and are where I want them to be first. That being said, I have a couple ideas, and I just need to really like hone in and make sure that I can get the stuff that I need and get the assets that I need and get the make sure that I have what's up. But like, one idea that I'm kind of pitching around is I don't know if you're familiar with Reader's Digest. You ever heard of it?
Sure.
Yeah, so it's like condensed versions of books. Like, what? Like, I don't understand why this existed, like, at all. But I thought it might be fun to do not recaps, but actual digesting of various things. So maybe it's food, maybe it's media, maybe it's music, maybe it's a game, you know, but it's something that's like, well, I'm not here to review it. I'm simply here to tell you it as I saw it and give you the best synopsis of it that I can, so that, you know, you're not the dolt who like shows up to a Breaking Bad party and people are saying, what's chili pea? Like, so as a nerd who is a cook, anytime I say chili powder, if there's a Breaking Bad fan, they're like, chili pea, that's my secret ingredient. Yeah. And I didn't watch that. I'm sorry. But I know enough to know that chili pea is my secret ingredient. It's a Breaking Bad thing. And so then if I throw it into a show, people are like, oh, cool. Like, he's a Breaking Bad fan. Not. But like, I want to equip people with the key lines so that they don't alienate themselves from nerddom. Like, alienating yourself in nerddom. That's so ridiculous. As in, once you are alienated, I don't want you to feel further alienated.
Yeah. You don't want to be the lowest level of nerd or geek. You just want to be okay. You want to get
I want you to be a great geek. That's it.
Make America geek again. There you go.
Exactly.
So, all right. So last question then. You kind of touched upon a little bit with the whole RV and everything there. And it's just simply, and this is more from me to kind of wrap things up. What's next for Justin Warner?
So what's next is self-creating and self-publishing and self-putting out there. Like, I love working with Marvel. It's amazing. I love working with Grocia Games. It's amazing. Between the two of those, though, I've learned a lot, and I have learned that there is a gap and there's a place for me to fit, but I don't think that anybody is going to be willing to put their money on the line for this gap. So I think that I need to put my own money, my own resources, my own time, and invest in this personally in order to create this and attract the attention of other people. You know, for example, Chef Shock on Twitch, it's not dead, but it's definitely not alive. It's on life support, you know, but there are a lot of people that are still keeping their eye on that are invested in that know that that's a thing that might have been a little bit before its time.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
but knows that up in like nobody has done it like that since that I'm aware of, and nobody did it like that until we did it. So we just need the money to catch up with this. I know that sounds capitalist, but the problem is, you know, to do stuff in general, you need some sort of capital, or you need the ability, the capital to take away from making capital in order to make your other thing. So hopefully, you know, the RV is going to, you know, free up some of my budget, and then I'm not going to be paying New York rent so much. I'll be paying like Des Moines campsite rent.
Yeah, right.
You know, but also I think that New York is very, it's unfriendly to a lot of people because, you know, New York is like, it's like what Florida was when we were watching Double Dare as kids. You're like, oh my God, maybe someday I'll make it to Florida. You know, it's like, dude, just take I-95. It's not that hard. Drive like, spend the night once and you're there. So, but like, you know, New York is this like mystical, magical place that people think that they'll only get to once or twice in their life. And that may be true, honestly, but it doesn't have to be that way. But also, anytime you do anything here, it comes across as this kind of like top down, like I'm speaking from the top of the Empire State Building and broadcasting to middle America. And the thing is, like, I lived in Colorado for a long time, and my wife's from South Dakota. And as hoity-toity and as uppity as my food and my verbiage can be, like, I don't see myself as being this sort of upper echelon of anything. I see myself as a normal dude who likes normal things and likes to be creative. That's it. And so I think by one, escaping New York and getting out of the mental and physical rat race of this place, but also more firmly rooting myself with the people that are truly paying my bills. You know, I can walk down the street in New York, nobody bats an eye. But man, right. if you like show up in the Milwaukee airport, like it's over. You know, like it's like a very big deal. You know, Comic-Con was the same way for the most part. And what was also weird there in terms of like fandom is that everybody was looking for like Tom Holland, but they were also like told people would freak out, like, oh my God, it's you! Like, what are you doing here? You know, so it was, I don't know. It's just great to put smiles on people's faces. And like, I don't think that New York, I said this when I closed my restaurant, like the last thing New York needs is another restaurant, let alone another restaurant that's trying to expand horizons. And so there are plenty of cities across America that I think could benefit from that would love that, and would support that longer than it being a fad. They would say, oh, well, it's been here 5 years, it's an institution. In New York, like if you don't have the next hot thing, you know, it's over. You know, right? Like unless you are like a mega chef. You know, for example, like Thomas Keller's restaurant per se, largely considered to be like one of the greatest. 11 Madison Park. You know, there's places where it's like $200+ to get a seat.
Right.
You know, those places are doing something that is almost. I've been to both of them, and I'm fortunate to have been to both of them. But it's not something like. You know, if you're coming to New York once, I don't know that you necessarily want to go to per se. I think you want to try pizza, you know?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And like wrap your mind around what that looks like. And then, but which is actually worth more than the other? It might have been you, the largest ball of twine.
Yep.
Yeah, were we talking about that?
Yeah,
DM? And so like, I was like, well, so the largest ball of twine gets visited by lots of people. It is a source of income for a small community. I don't even know where the thing is. I'll find it though. And people, I assume, take care of it and staff it, and it belongs to someone or something. And if you go visit the largest ball of twine, you're supporting them. And so I'm like, if you visit New York, like, who are you supporting? Like, sure, you can go to like a local pizza place, but like, are the servers there getting like, yes, they're keeping their job, but like, are you directly impacting something that could otherwise like disappear? You know? And so I think that by like investing in small communities and giving my time to small communities as opposed to big ones, I think we can do more. And like this is not an outlandish concept. If you look at diners, drive-ins, and dives, they literally call it the triple D effect.
Yep.
You know, when Guy Fieri touches a restaurant, it becomes made of gold. And, you know, it could be in the middle of nowhere and people will trek to it. And so I kind of want to follow in his footsteps a little bit, but kind of make it, you know, every food and travel program roughly is the same.
Yep.
When you're here, go here. And it's the host that really makes the difference. And so I think there are a couple spins on the food and travel thing that I could do and that I could showcase. And I think that with a couple of cameras and people with good attitude, I think we can make something that's truly remarkable. You know?
Cool. Well,
like, dude, like nobody knows about coffee milk. You know?
I do.
Right. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? But like, you know, it's not like a thing that's nationally known, or like you know, Coney Island system or Coney. What is it called? Olneyville's.
Yeah, Olneyville, New York system.
New York system. What? Olneyville is not in New York, right?
Nope.
So nope. Why is it New York? Like this is like this conundrum of your state needs to be unraveled, and people need to know about it, and people need to know that, like, yes, seeing the Empire State Building or Statue of Liberty is a great thing to do, or going to Times Square and standing there in front of gigantic advertisements. Well, it's a thing to do. Yeah. But understanding Olneyville, New York system, what that means, why it exists, is just as valid and also supports, in my opinion, a more worthy establishment. Mm-hmm. That's it. So I'm done preaching. Cool. Sorry if I got preachy there.
No, it's good. I mean, that's what the people asked. You know, it's fitting there. So basically, long story short, stay tuned, everybody. There's more to come.
More to come.
More to come. It's not the end. So thank you so much, Justin, once again for joining us. It's always a pleasure. It's always a lot of fun to hear some insights and some things that, you know, people who tune in and just listen about video games may not know about. And I will say kudos to you, my friend, because you have tuned us into a lot more listeners that may not have been interested in video games because they were interested in Justin Warner cooking side. And you've also turned a bunch of video game nerds into cooking fans at the same time because of your persona and what you've done here. So we appreciate it.
I'll tell you what, none of this could happen without a darn good interview. So, you know, if it weren't for you, none of it would be happening. So cheers to you, man.
Cheers to both of us then. We'll call it even.
Indeed. We'll catch you next time.
Absolutely, everybody. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. If you can follow Justin on Twitter at EatFellowHumans and get the cookbook and all the fun things there, we'll link to all of the stuff he's been doing in the show notes. So as always, everybody, we ask that you never stop gaming.